My name is Natasha Dunlop. I'm with Aeroflex Logistics. We've been in business for a year and a half. We started up in New England. We purchased an existing contracts up there, working out of 3 bases, Billerica, Wilmington, and Manchester. And we utilized our experiences with aviation to try to apply what we knew there in the aviation space and apply that into the trucking industry. And though there are lots of similarities, there are some differences, and so it has been a big learning curve. We were very fortunate. We were approached by FedEx to consider taking on some runs down in Savannah, Georgia, and we did do that. There were 6 runs available, and we were awarded 4 of the 6. That was an exceptional experience. Extremely happy with that. We hope to continue to grow in that region. My personal role, there's 4 of us that are owners. My personal role has to do more with the onboarding of drivers, so HR, recruiting, and processing them into our system, and getting them in touch with various vendors and within our systems. For example, our payroll department, health benefits, and then just our systems for them to be a successful driver in their day-to-day tasks. I do the recruiting and the onboarding of our drivers. I spend a lot of time on Indeed and exploring other avenues. We were using M3 to explore social media contacts, and then of course working with recruiters. So I spend a lot of time reviewing applications, talking to recruiters, and the most frustrating part of my day-to-day routine is working with First Advantage and getting drivers to process and getting them through that system, getting them to be green, to be able to be road tested, and get them in a truck in a timely manner. So I spend a lot of time with that. Typically, getting them into apps in, like, for example, myGroundForce, Safety Forward, those kinds of things are pretty streamlined, and that is going very well. It's just finding the right drivers, spending a lot of time weeding through drivers that are going to be a good fit culturally for us. That's where I spend the bulk of my time. I was introduced to myGroundForce actually through my business partner, Patrick Newcomb. That's more his wheelhouse. And through his research, through Haldy Tech, which is another entity that functions somewhat like myGroundForce, and we were trying to figure out what was going to be the best for our organization. And we ended up landing on myGroundForce, and that has really worked out to be a great relationship. For one thing, Tim Goff has a fantastic relationship with Patrick Newcomb, and I think what we like is the personal aspect and getting to really have a personal connection, so if there is something that we need to correct or deal with, we know we have an ally, because things are gonna go wrong. And if you don't have that connection, you can't get it fixed. You can't make improvements. And Tim is always looking for ways to make myGroundForce better. And we use it for a lot of different things that he provides, and we're always looking to use myGroundForce in other aspects of our business. Where the technology helps is we're human and things get messed up. And even with technology, if you're not paying attention, things can get messed up, and that can cause time and money. One of the big things that we like about myGroundForce is the compliance tab. And we enter in our drivers' expiration dates on their med cards, their CDL licenses, and so there's alerts that go out not only to us, but to our drivers to alert them to pay attention to this. If you miss that element and they get pulled over, it can mean a ticket, which affects your SRI scores. It can also mean that they get shut down, and if they don't go to get their physical done for their med card, if they don't renew their license, now that truck has the potential of sitting, and I'm not making money, the driver's not making money. It creates a lot of frustration, and it also damages your reputation with FedEx because now you're not reliable. So even something like that with myGroundForce has been extremely helpful, and now I'm not having to look at a spreadsheet. myGroundForce is doing it for me and bringing it to my attention as well as my driver's attention. I think you gain back the time because now I'm not spending time going through spreadsheets or individual files. So that is really huge. And we know that we'll continue to work with myGroundForce to add other elements that will make us not be tied to our desks that much more. We actually just came across a fellow contractor who's been in existence a little bit longer than us, and they have no technology, none. And we started talking with them, and they were floored by all the technology that we had, and they were really intrigued and interested and learning what we're doing and trying to possibly look at that for themselves. They have multiple spreadsheets, a lot of hours of man time going into compliance issues, just lots of different things. Even like their scheduling, their payroll is all done manually. And myGroundForce helps us make even our payroll so much more streamlined. And we're not spending hours on end calculating cents per mile, flat rates, because myGroundForce does it in the payroll tab. And he's spending hours and hours and hours figuring out his payroll, and we're not. So because of that, again, it's a way to save time, and time is money. I always think that Tim Goth is trying to find ways to either improve upon existing programs that he already offers, or continuing to add. And we look forward to being a part of that journey going forward, giving feedback and know that it's going to be heard. So we do see our organization staying with myGroundForce. From even when we first started with myGroundForce to now, there's always continued improvement. And so I feel that that is awesome.